15-second hook YouTube opening. Every morning, Alex woke up with a heavy feeling in the chest, the kind you couldn't explain to anyone else. From the outside, life looked fine. But inside, something was breaking little by little. This is the story of the moment Alex realized that staying was more painful than walking away, and how one brave decision changed everything forever. Alex used to believe that strength meant endurance. If you could stay, tolerate, survive, then you were strong. That belief had been shaped over years, quietly, almost invisibly. It started small, like most things that end up changing your life. At 23, Alex had just graduated from college and landed what everyone called a good opportunity. Stable job. A respectable company. The kind of position parents bragged about to relatives. When Alex got the offer letter, there was relief more than excitement. Relief that the uncertainty was over. Relief that life could finally begin. The first few weeks felt fine. New desk. New coworkers. A routine that made sense on paper. Alex told friends, "It's going well," and even believed it at first. But somewhere between the morning commute and the forced smiles during meetings, something began to shift. It wasn't one big thing. It was dozens of tiny moments. A manager who corrected Alex in front of others, laughing it off like a joke. Emails rewritten completely without explanation. Ideas ignored in meetings, then praised when someone else said the same thing 5 minutes later. Alex noticed the tightness in the shoulders at the end of the day. The way silence filled the car during the drive home. The exhaustion that didn't go away after sleep. Still, Alex stayed. "Every job is hard at first," people said. "You just need thicker skin," a coworker joked. "Be grateful," Alex reminded themselves. "At least you have a job." So Alex learned to swallow words. Learned to nod. Learned to apologize even when nothing was wrong. Slowly, almost without realizing it, Alex stopped speaking up. Stopped asking questions. Stopped trusting their own instincts. Confidence doesn't disappear all at once. It erodes. Each morning, getting out of bed felt heavier than the last. The mirror reflected someone Alex barely recognized. Same face, same eyes, but dulled. Less alive. The excitement that once came naturally was replaced by a constant low-level anxiety. Fear became a quiet companion. Fear of disappointing family. Fear of starting over. Fear of being labeled a quitter. So Alex stayed, even as the job followed them home. Even as weekends were spent dreading Mondays. Even as friends noticed the change. "You're quieter lately," one friend said over coffee. Alex smiled. "Just tired." The truth was harder to say out loud. Alex felt small. Replaceable. Invisible. One evening, after another long day, Alex stayed late to finish a project. The office was nearly empty. Lights dimmed, the hum of computers echoing in the silence. Alex reviewed the work one last time, careful, precise, doing everything possible to avoid mistakes. The next morning, during a team meeting, the manager pulled up the project on the screen. "This isn't what I asked for," he said flatly. Alex's stomach dropped. Before Alex could speak, he continued, "Honestly, I don't know why this is so hard for you. We've been over this." Laughter rippled lightly through the room. Not cruel, not loud, but enough. Alex felt heat rush to the face. Words formed in the mind, clear and reasonable explanations. But the throat closed. Fear won. "I'm sorry," Alex said quietly. The meeting moved on as if nothing had happened. But something had happened. Later that day, Alex sat alone at the desk, staring at the screen without seeing it. The apology echoed in the head. Not because it was wrong, but because it was automatic. Reflex. A habit formed from months of shrinking. That afternoon, Alex received a short message from the manager. "Redo it. ASAP." No feedback. No guidance. Just dismissal. That was the small moment. Painful but small on the surface. The kind of thing people would say wasn't a big deal. But inside Alex, something finally cracked. For the first time, a different question appeared. Not "how can I fix this?" but "why am I still here?" Alex went to the restroom, locked the door, and sat on the closed toilet lid. The silence pressed in. Breathing felt shallow. Eyes burned. "This isn't me," Alex whispered. And for the first time in months, the thought of leaving didn't feel like failure. Felt like relief. Memories surfaced. Of who Alex used to be. The confidence in college presentations. The excitement of learning. The belief that hard work would lead to growth, not humiliation. Alex realized something that felt both terrifying and clear. Staying was costing more than leaving ever could. Staying was costing self-respect. Staying was costing joy. Staying was costing identity. That evening, Alex didn't stay late. For the first time, Alex shut down the computer at 5, ignored the unread emails, and walked out while the sun was still up. The drive home felt different. Quiet but not heavy. Thoughtful. At home, Alex sat on the edge of the bed and stared at the wall. The fear was still there, but it had changed. It wasn't fear of leaving anymore. It was fear of staying forever. That night, Alex slept deeply for the first time in weeks. The next morning, nothing at work had changed, but Alex had. When the manager made a dismissive comment, Alex didn't immediately apologize. When an idea was ignored, Alex noticed it without internalizing it as failure. And slowly, a plan began to form. Not impulsive, not dramatic, just honest. Alex started updating the resume at night, reaching out to old classmates, researching options, not running away but walking toward something better. Each small step brought back a piece of confidence. Fear didn't disappear, but courage showed up anyway. Alex wasn't sure where the path would lead yet, but for the first time in a long while there was hope. And that hope was powerful, because once you realize your worth, you can never fully unsee it. And this was only the beginning. Part 2. Alex didn't tell anyone about the plan at first. Not family. Not friends. It felt fragile, like a small flame that could be blown out if exposed too early. So Alex carried it quietly, tucked between everyday routines and forced smiles at work. The job didn't suddenly become worse. It didn't need to. Once you see clearly, even familiar pain feels sharper. The same comments, the same dismissive looks, the same tension in meetings. Now they landed differently. Alex no longer absorbed them as truth. Instead, they felt like evidence. Each morning still began with the alarm, the same ceiling overhead, the same commute. But something inside had shifted. Alex noticed it in small ways. The shoulders weren't as hunched. The internal voice wasn't as cruel. There was still fear, yes, but it no longer controlled every decision. At lunch one day, a coworker named Brian sat across from Alex in the break room. Brian had been there longer than anyone else Alex knew. He was competent, reliable, and always looked exhausted. "You okay?" Brian asked, unwrapping his sandwich. Alex hesitated. "Yeah, just thinking." Brian nodded, as if he understood more than Alex had said. "This place does that to you." The words hung in the air. "You ever think about leaving?" Alex asked quietly. Brian laughed, but it wasn't amused. "Every day. Then I remember the bills." Alex nodded. That answer sounded familiar. Too familiar. That night, Alex opened the laptop and stared at the resume. The cursor blinked, waiting. It felt strange to describe achievements that didn't feel real anymore. But as Alex typed, memories returned. Projects completed, problems solved, skills learned. Proof that competence hadn't vanished. It had just been buried. Emails were sent carefully. Not desperate. Not apologetic. Just honest. Days passed. Then weeks. There were moments of doubt. Nights when Alex lay awake thinking, what if this is as good as it gets? What if leaving only makes things worse? On those nights, fear felt heavy again. But then there were moments like the interview request that popped into the inbox one Tuesday afternoon. Alex stared at the screen, heart racing. Someone wanted to talk. Someone saw value. The interview was scheduled for Friday during lunch. Alex sat in a quiet corner of a cafe, earbuds in, hands trembling slightly as the call connected. The interviewer asked thoughtful questions. actually listened. When Alex spoke, there was no interruption, no correction, just curiosity. For the first time in months, Alex felt like a professional again, not a problem to manage. When the call ended, Alex sat there for a long moment, staring out the window. The city moved as it always had. Cars passed. People laughed. Life went on. But something inside Alex felt lighter. Back at work, the contrast became impossible to ignore. The same manager, the same tone, the same casual dismissals. Once, Alex might have wondered what was wrong with himself. Now the question had changed. Why had this ever felt acceptable? One afternoon, the manager called Alex into his office. "Your performance has been inconsistent," he said, leaning back in his chair. "You don't seem as engaged lately." Alex felt the familiar urge to apologize rise up, but stopped it. "I'm doing my work," Alex said evenly. The manager raised an eyebrow, surprised. "I expect more initiative." Alex nodded calmly. "I understand." The conversation ended quickly after that. As Alex walked back to the desk, the hands were shaking, but the heart felt steady. That night, another email arrived. Then another. More interviews. More conversations. Each one felt like a small door opening. Still, the decision wasn't easy. Walking away meant uncertainty. It meant letting go of a known discomfort for an unknown future. It meant explaining to family members who believed stability was everything. Alex finally told a close friend, Maya, during a late-night phone call. "I think I'm going to leave," Alex said. There was a pause. Then Maya said softly, "I was wondering when you'd say that." "What do you mean?" "You haven't sounded like yourself in a long time," she replied. "I miss that version of you." The words hit harder than any criticism ever had. The offer came 2 weeks later. Not perfect, not magical, but respectful, human. A place where questions were welcomed instead of punished. Alex read the email 3 times, heart pounding. This was it. The next morning, Alex sat at the desk, staring at the manager's door. The resignation letter was printed, folded neatly in the bag. Fear whispered all the old warnings. Don't risk it. Don't disappoint anyone. Don't make a mistake. But another voice spoke too. Quieter, steadier. Choose yourself. Alex knocked. The manager skimmed the letter. Expression unreadable. "You're leaving." "Yes," Alex said. "For what reason?" Alex took a breath. "I need an environment where I can grow." There was a pause. Then a shrug. "Suit yourself." No apology. No reflection. Just confirmation. As Alex walked out of the office, resignation accepted, something unexpected happened. There was no regret. Only relief. The final days passed quickly. Alex packed up the desk, said polite goodbyes, exchanged numbers that would probably never be used. Brian shook Alex's hand. "Good for you," he said quietly. On the last day, Alex stepped outside the building and stood there for a moment. The air felt different. Lighter. For the first time in a long time, Alex wasn't walking away in defeat. Alex was walking forward with courage. And the future, uncertain as it was, finally felt like it belonged to Alex again. Part 3. The first morning after leaving felt unreal. Alex woke up before the alarm, heart racing for a split second, then remembered. There was no rush. No heavy weight pressing down on the chest. Just quiet. Sunlight slipped through the curtains, soft and unhurried. Alex lay there for a moment, listening to the sounds of the city waking up, and felt something unfamiliar but welcome. Calm. Change didn't arrive like fireworks. It arrived like breathing again. The new job started 2 weeks later. During that time, doubt tried to sneak back in. It always did when things were quiet. What if you made the wrong choice? What if you don't belong there either? What if this confidence disappears the moment you walk into a new office? Alex acknowledged the fear instead of fighting it. Fear, after all, was just proof that something mattered. On the first day, Alex stood outside the new building, adjusting the bag strap, taking a deep breath. The lobby was bright. Open. People greeted each other by name. At the front desk, a woman smiled. "You must be Alex. We've been expecting you." The words landed softly, but they stayed. "We've been expecting you." Orientation passed in a blur. Names, faces, systems. But the difference was immediate. When Alex asked a question, no one sighed. When Alex offered an idea, someone wrote it down. At lunch, a teammate named Jordan leaned over. "You're picking this up fast," he said. "Where were you before?" Alex hesitated. "Somewhere that wasn't a good fit." Jordan nodded like that explanation was enough. And maybe it was. Still, habits formed in pain don't vanish overnight. Alex caught themselves apologizing unnecessarily, hesitating before speaking, bracing for criticism that never came. One afternoon, Alex made a small mistake. A detail overlooked. Simple fix. The manager called Alex into a meeting room. "Here it comes," Alex thought. But instead she said, "Thanks for flagging this. Let's fix it together." No blame. No embarrassment. Afterward, Alex sat at the desk stunned. The old reflex, to shrink, had nowhere to land. Confidence didn't rush back all at once. It returned in pieces. In the way Alex spoke a little louder each week. In the way shoulders relaxed during meetings. In the way laughter came easier. Outside of work, life shifted too. Alex started running again. Just short evening jogs that cleared the mind. Started cooking instead of ordering takeout. Started calling friends instead of canceling plans. Maya noticed it immediately. "You sound lighter," she said during one call. "I feel lighter," Alex replied, smiling. But growth isn't a straight line. One evening, after a long day, Alex overheard coworkers discussing layoffs in another department. The old fear surged instantly. That familiar tightness returned. That night, sleep didn't come easily. Memories of the old job crept in. The feeling of being disposable. The fear of losing everything. Alex sat up in bed and let the fear run its course instead of pushing it away. Then asked a different question. "If this ends someday, will I survive?" The answer came quietly but clearly. Because Alex had already survived worse. Not losing a job, but losing self-worth. And this time, Alex wouldn't give that up so easily. Weeks turned into months. Alex was given more responsibility. Trusted with projects. Asked for input. One afternoon, during a team meeting, Alex shared an idea that had been forming for weeks. The room went quiet. Then the manager smiled. "That's solid. Let's explore it." Alex felt a rush. Not of pride, but of alignment. This was what it felt like to be seen. Later that day, Jordan stopped by Alex's desk. "You know," he said, "you've got leadership energy." Alex laughed. "I don't think of myself that way." "You should," Jordan replied. That comment stayed with Alex all the way home. Leadership, confidence, self-respect. They weren't traits you were born with. They were choices you made over and over again. One evening, Alex walked past the old office building on the way home from dinner. The lights were still on inside. People hunched over desks. Alex paused. For a moment there was sadness. Not regret, but compassion for the person Alex used to be. The version that stayed too long because they thought leaving meant failure. Alex whispered, "Thank you, not to the building but to that past self. For surviving. For enduring. For eventually choosing differently." Walking away hadn't been easy. But it had been necessary. And the most surprising part. Alex realized the job hadn't changed life. The decision had. The courage to walk away had created space. For growth, for peace, for possibility. And now, Alex wasn't just surviving. Alex was becoming. Part 4. Time has a quiet way of revealing what really changed. Months passed. Then a year. And Alex began to notice that the fear which once dominated every decision had lost its voice. It still showed up sometimes, but now it sounded distant, almost unfamiliar. Life had settled into a rhythm that felt honest. Mornings no longer began with dread. They began with intention. Coffee tasted better. Music sounded fuller. Even silence felt peaceful instead of heavy. At work, Alex had grown into the role naturally. Not by forcing confidence but by trusting it. Colleagues came to Alex with questions. New hires asked for advice. During meetings, Alex spoke without rehearsing every sentence in advance. One afternoon, the manager pulled Alex aside. "We're starting a new project," she said. "I want you to lead it." The words landed slowly. "Me?" Alex asked. "Yes," she replied without hesitation. "You're ready." That night, Alex sat on the couch staring at the wall, remembering a time when even speaking in meetings felt impossible. The contrast was overwhelming. Not because of success, but because of self-belief. Leadership brought challenges, deadlines, difficult conversations, moments of doubt. But each challenge felt different now. It felt earned. Chosen. Alex made mistakes and owned them. Learned from them. Grew. One evening after a long workday, Alex met Brian for coffee. They hadn't spoken since Alex left the old job. "You look different," Brian said, studying Alex's face. "Better or worse?" Alex joked. "Lighter," Brian replied. "Like you're not carrying something heavy anymore." Alex nodded. "I didn't realize how heavy it was until I put it down." Brian stared into his cup. "I wish I had your courage." Alex shook their head gently. It wasn't courage at first. It was exhaustion. That truth mattered. Courage didn't always arrive as bravery. Sometimes it arrived as the refusal to suffer quietly any longer. Later that night, Alex thought about how many people stayed in places that broke them slowly. Not because they were weak, but because they were hopeful, loyal, afraid of uncertainty. Alex wished they could tell them all one thing. You are allowed to leave. Life outside work continued to expand. Alex enrolled in a weekend class. Something creative just for joy. Started volunteering once a month. Met new people who knew nothing about the old version of Alex. And expected nothing but honesty. One afternoon, Alex received a message from an unknown number. "Hi Alex. This is your old manager." The heart skipped. Old reflexes stirred. "We have an opening. Thought you might be interested in coming back." Alex stared at the screen, surprised by how little emotion it triggered. After a moment, Alex replied politely. "Thank you for reaching out. I found a place that aligns better with who I am now. I wish you well." The phone was set down. No shaking. No doubt. That was when Alex truly understood. The chapter was closed. That evening, Alex stood by the window watching the city lights flicker on, thinking about how far things had come. Not in titles or salary, but in peace. Walking away hadn't solved everything. Life still had hard days. But it had restored something essential. Self-respect. And once you reclaim that, nothing else feels impossible. Alex smiled not because life was perfect but because it was honest. And that made all the difference. Final part. The changes didn't announce themselves loudly. They revealed themselves in moments so ordinary that Alex almost missed them at first. Like the day Alex disagreed openly in a meeting, and didn't feel the need to soften the words or apologize afterward. Or the evening Alex turned down extra work without guilt, choosing rest instead. Or the morning Alex looked in the mirror and saw not exhaustion, but recognition. These moments were quiet victories. And together they formed a life. Years ago, Alex had believed that survival was enough. That if you could endure, you were doing well. But now Alex understood something deeper. Endurance without dignity slowly empties you. You can stay alive while losing yourself. And losing yourself is the most expensive price of all. One afternoon, Alex was asked to speak to a group of new employees. Just a short welcome. Nothing formal. But as Alex stood there, looking at faces filled with the same mix of hope and uncertainty once carried alone, a memory surfaced. The version of Alex who stayed silent, who shrank, who believed leaving meant failure. Alex took a breath. "You're here because you bring value," Alex said. "Not because you're perfect. Not because you never make mistakes. But because your perspective matters. Don't forget that." The words were meant for them, but they were also for Alex. After the session, a young employee approached quietly. "Thanks for that," she said. "I needed to hear it." Alex nodded, understanding more than she could know. That evening, walking home, Alex thought about how one decision had redirected everything. Not a dramatic escape. Not a reckless leap. Just a moment of honesty. "This is costing me too much." Courage hadn't removed fear. It had simply refused to obey it. There were still days when things felt uncertain. Still moments when old habits tried to return. But now Alex recognized them for what they were. Echoes, not truths. One weekend, Alex visited family. Over dinner, someone asked, "Do you ever regret leaving that job? It seemed so stable." Alex paused, then smiled gently. "No. Stability without peace isn't stability." No one argued. The conversation moved on. But inside, Alex felt grounded in a way words couldn't fully explain. Later that night, Alex sat alone on the porch, listening to the quiet. Thinking about the person who once believed that walking away meant giving up. The truth was simpler. Walking away had been an act of self-respect. And self-respect changed how Alex showed up everywhere. In work, in relationships, in life. Alex no longer waited for permission to be valued. No longer stayed where dignity was optional. No longer confused fear with responsibility. The future remained uncertain. But it felt open. Alive. Alex stood, took one last look at the stars and felt grateful. Not for the struggle but for the lesson. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do isn't to stay and endure. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is to walk away. And in doing so, walk toward yourself. If this story touched something inside you, remember this. You are not weak for feeling tired. You are not ungrateful for wanting more. And you are not a failure for choosing yourself. Sometimes growth doesn't come from holding on, it comes from letting go. From walking away from what slowly breaks you, and walking toward what helps you become whole again. If you're learning English, listen to how stories like this flow naturally. Feel the emotion. Notice the pauses. Language isn't just words, it's meaning, courage, and connection. Thank you for listening. And if you're standing at a crossroads right now, trust yourself. Your life can change with one brave decision.